seen this Falcons team evolve. You covered the NFC specifically. What are your thoughts on the Falcons? And I think Matt Ryan and what's changed and allowed him to perform at an MVP level from start to finish of this season?
I think that there's a great connection between Matt Ryan and Kyle Shanahan. I think they grew together last season. I think Kyle challenged him to do some things differently. I think Matt embraced those suggestions and kind of changed up his preparation during the course of the week. I think it gave him more downtime to be more relaxed. And now all of a sudden you start to have success with that, and it just continues to grow. So I think the big thing that Matt has done this year is take advantage of the people who are around him. And you've got a marquee receiver on the outside who scares every defensive coordinator of the NFL, who's very humble, who has very little ego, and doesn't have to have 10 targets every week to be happy. If they're winning football games and he's got 2 targets and 2 catches, and it's somebody else that day that has the big game, Julio Jones is fine with that. And you're seeing Matt work that scenario right there. I think one of the big things I've seen from him this year, he talked to us. We had him probably midseason against the Chargers, and then we had him the last game against the Saints. And I remember the first time we had him, he talked about quiet shoulders. He wanted to get quiet shoulders in the pocket. Felt that there was too much movement. It impacted his platform to throw the ball from. What I've seen from Matt Ryan this year is much more fluidity in the pocket, moving up, climbing up into the pocket. He had a couple of nice runs you saw against the Green Bay Packers on the touchdown run. If you play man coverage against the Atlanta Falcons in the red zone, Matt has the athletic ability to make you pay a price down there, and he showed the Packers that. So I've really thought that was an area where he's taken a big step, in my opinion. He's very confident in the huddle. And go back to that Seattle game early in the year. I mean, he got pounded in that pocket. I mean, Seattle roughed him up as much as any quarterback this season, and he just stood there and he threw passes with guys bearing down on him. So he's got the courage in the pocket and a really nice ability to climb in the pocket.
Okay, so we've seen the number one offense go against the number one defense before. It was just 2 years ago, right? Or it was 3 years ago when it was Denver and Seattle. And that game could not have been more lopsided. So tell me why that won't be the case in Houston a week from Sunday.
I think Seattle was a unique defense that year. I think it was one of those situations that you hope to have, that you hope to be a part of, that would be very tough to replicate moving forward. I don't see New England's defense being that way. I don't see them as strong, both sharing the number one ranking as the Seattle Seahawks were that year. I also don't see Atlanta's offense, maybe as explosive as Denver's was that year. The other thing is I expect a better performance because of the guidance of Dan Quinn. I think there'll be a lot of talk about experience in this game, but people have to remember that Dan Quinn, this will be his 3rd time in 4 years that he's been at the Super Bowl. 2 times as a defensive coordinator in 13 and 14, and now this year after the 16th season as head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. He's going to know the little pitfalls, the little things that can get you into trouble once you get down to the host city, maintaining that schedule, not letting the players feel that the game is bigger than any other game they played during the course of the season, which is virtually impossible to do, but he'll have that experience. So I think one of the big factors that you're not going to see a very poor performance by the Atlanta Falcons offense. And I thought as well as Seattle played and how much they impacted Denver that game, I did not think Denver played well offensively at all.
I would agree, and they got behind, and it just got worse. All right, what about
it snowballed on them? Absolutely.
What about the Falcons defense? They get a lot of turnovers, but numbers wise, they give up a lot of points. Now, some of that is they score a lot of points, so more possessions, obviously. But can this, like we've seen, we have 2 weeks to the master to pick it apart, and I granted they don't have Gronk. But somehow they find a way to pick apart the best defenses and to get Tom Brady time to throw in the pocket. Give me your sense of whether or not this Falcons defense is up to the task.
Yeah, right. Chris Hogan goes 9 for 180 and 2 touchdowns. So it really doesn't matter who is there as long as Tom Brady is there. And that'll be the challenge for Atlanta's defense. They're fast. They're a little bit undersized. You mentioned the fact, let's see what the master does over the next 2 weeks. I think you're going to see a heavy dose of a physical run game from LeGarrette Blount. I thought the Dallas Cowboys would be a bad matchup for the Atlanta Falcons because of their style of play. Big offensive line, physical running game, take time off the clock, keep Matt Ryan on the sideline. Remember, Bill Belichick was the architect of the defense that knocked off the Buffalo Bills after they scored 44 in the divisional round and 51 in the championship game. And he held the Buffalo Bills to 19 points when the Giants won 20-19. He knows how to take time off the clock for the other team, for the other offense. So I expect to see a big day running the ball with LeGarrette Blount, Dion Lewis, and James White to take time off the clock, keep Matt Ryan and that explosive offense on the sideline.